For thousands of years, eagles have commanded the sky with their grace, agility, and strength. Few birds have the courage to challenge an eagle in his element. For invaders who trespass in the eagle's territory, the response is swift, accurate, and deadly. Today another eagle, namesake to this bird of prey, rules the skies. The McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle, the most advanced fighter aircraft in the United States arsenal of high-tech military hardware. The F-15's origin can be traced back to the aftermath of the Korean War, where Soviet Mig-15 fighters dominated the U.S. Air Force's slow-moving B-29s. In the 1950s and early 60s, the U.S. continued to fall behind the Soviet Union by neglecting conventional forces and aircraft technology during the Cold War space race and the rush to develop strategic nuclear weapons. Like Sputnik in the 1950s, a new advanced Soviet fighter, the Mig-25 Foxbat, shocked the West out of its lethargy. When this aircraft was introduced for the first time in 1967, all the fear of once again being second best came to haunt the United States Air Force. The U.S. had nothing to match the speed and destructive power of the MiG-25. United States SR-71 reconnaissance overflights of the Soviet Union were now vulnerable to interception. The Soviets proved their technological prowess, and it was up to the U.S. to reassert itself as the leader in aerospace technology and aircraft design. Prior to the MiG-25's Moscow debut, the U.S. Air Force had embarked on a Fighter Experimental, or FX, program. But with the unveiling of the Mig-25 Foxbat and the threat it posed, more funding was made available. The FX program, renamed F-15, became the U.S. Air Force's primary concern. McDonnell Douglas won the initial contract to produce 10 single-seat F-15As and 10 two-seat F-15B trainers in 1969. After 2.5 million man-hours of research, design, and development, the first F-15 was rolled out of McDonnell Douglas's St. Louis facility on June 2, 1972. The maiden flight of the $30 million F-15 was flown on July 27, 1972 by Irving Burroughs, McDonnell Douglas's project pilot. In 1974, the first operational F-15s went to the 58th Tactical Training Wing, stationed at Luke Air Force Base in Arizona. Less than 2 years later, on January 9, 1976, the 1st Tactical Fighter Wing at Langley Air Force Base received its first fully operational aircraft. And by the end of 1976, 2 additional squadrons were outfitted with Eagles. The 27th, 71st, and 94th Tactical Fighter Squadrons of the 1st Tactical Fighter Wing were declared operational in early 1977. Just as the first F-15s were being introduced into active service, the myths surrounding the MiG-25 were being dispelled. In 1976, Soviet pilot Lieutenant Viktor Belenko flew a MiG-25 Foxbat to Japan's Hakodate Airport and promptly defected. Western experts were given a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to thoroughly inspect a Foxbat. It was dissected overnight and found not to be the stellar leap in aviation technology that experts believed it to be. In mid-1979, the A and B model F-15s were replaced by the current C and D production models. These later models were modified to accept conformal fuel and sensor tactical, or FAST packs. These packs are aerodynamically designed fuel pallets, which significantly increase the aircraft's combat radius. They also allow for a wide array of electronic sensors, laser designators, and optical equipment to be carried. Other major improvements and equipment upgrades were made to the aircraft's avionics suite. The early APG-63 pulse Doppler radar was enhanced by the addition of a programmable signal processor, which allowed radar modes to be controlled by software rather than being hardwired into the circuitry. Further modifications gave the APG-63 synthetic aperture radar capability, which could provide sharply detailed resolution down to 10 feet. From a distance of 30 miles, the APG-63 radar could pick out street patterns and other minute terrain features. With the advent of the much improved C and D models, the F-15's reputation as a top-notch fighter was assured. But despite the advanced avionics and proven ability to carry ordnance, ground attack was still only considered a secondary function. In a program sponsored by McDonnell Douglas and dubbed Strike Eagle, a 2-seat B model was converted in 1979 into a rudimentary ground attack fighter. The prototype Strike Eagle was flown for the first time at the 1980 Farnborough Air Show. The aircraft was equipped with additional external hardpoints and backseat weapons display terminals. The key to the conversion, though, was the increased power of the F-15's flight computers and an improved SAR-capable Agm-65 radar system. The aircraft now enjoyed almost real-time ground mapping capability. This allowed potential targets to be surveyed by the attacking aircraft well in advance of their arrival. Though the F-15 Strike Eagle was first and foremost a strike aircraft, it still retained all the strengths of a first-class dogfighter. It was envisioned that the converted aircraft would assume the dual role of an all-weather strike fighter, a role then played by the aging F-111s. Having passed through numerous budgetary and design hurdles, the Strike Eagle officially kicked off with a series of viability studies in late 1982. The full program go-ahead was announced on February 24, 1984. The F-15 Strike Eagle is a revolutionary aircraft dedicated to precision ground strike missions. Affectionately known as Mud Hen by its crews, the F-15E strikes at low altitudes and has a second seat installed for a weapons system officer, or WISO. The addition of a backseat weapons system officer gave the aircraft an unmatched capability to deliver ordnance. In its alternate role, that of a fighter, the F-15 has proven to be an excellent air-to-air platform. With a complement of high-tech missiles and long-range radar, the basic fighter design of the Eagle is unparalleled. The F-15s can be outfitted with a variety of high-tech weaponry for both strike missions and air-to-air combat. For air-to-ground missions, a host of laser-guided smart bombs and standoff weapons can be mounted. If a heavy air threat is expected, the F-15E is able to launch both heat-seeking and radar-guided missiles. Air-to-ground ordnance includes the following. The Mark 82 500-pound GP bomb, originally designed in the 1950s, which functions as a general-purpose unguided munition suitable for internal and external mounting. The weapon can be configured with a number of different fuse mechanisms. The Mark 82 casing has also been used as an underwater mine on occasion. When the Mark 82 is fitted with a BSU-49 balloon retard system, it is then redesignated the Mark 82 RE-GP bomb. The Mark 82 is best used against exposed infantry, unarmored vehicles, and installations. The Mark 84 is designed for low drag on external hardpoints, but the added weight limits the number that may be carried. As with the Mark 82, a number of fuse mechanisms and explosive types may be used. For example, when the Mark 84 is fitted with a BSU-50 balloon retard system, it is then redesignated the Mark 84 RE-GP bomb. It is best used against exposed infantry, unarmored vehicles, and installations. The Mark 20 Rockeye-2 is a free-fall cluster bomb with internally stored submunitions. Delivered from the same attack profile as an ordinary 500-pound bomb, the Rockeye dispenser releases approximately 850 armor-piercing bomblets over a wide target area. The Rockeye Mark 339 dispenser has a delayed opening feature which allows an aircraft to make its run up on a target from very low altitude. In fact, Rockeye munitions may be released from altitudes under 100 feet if the aircraft's nose is pitched up. By altering the aircraft's speed and release altitude, the impact area may also be enlarged or decreased. It is best used against tanks, vehicles, depots, parked aircraft, and radar sites. The BGU-10 is a 2,000-pound general-purpose bomb retrofitted with a paveway laser guidance unit. The paveway system instantly transforms a common iron bomb into a laser-guided smart bomb. The guidance system uses laser energy reflected off the target to direct the weapon. Control surfaces on the bomb react to guide the bomb towards the designated aiming point. The target may be laser designated by the delivering aircraft, other aircraft in the package, or even from the ground. This method of delivering ordnance minimizes the time spent exposed to ground fire. It is best used against troop concentrations, soft targets, and installations. The GBU-12 is a 500-pound general-purpose bomb which, like the GBU-10, glides to the target while being guided by reflected laser energy. In the Gulf War, Special Forces teams deep inside Iraq designated Scud missile sites using handheld laser devices. F-15s equipped with these smart bombs were then called in to strike with pinpoint accuracy. The GBU-12 is best used against troop concentrations, soft targets, and installations. The GBU-15 is simply a Mark 84 GP bomb which has been converted to a smart bomb. The difference is the guidance system, which is attached to the Mark 84 casing and uses either TV optics or thermal infrared. The system allows the delivering aircraft to launch without first achieving a target lock. The GBU-15 requires an AXQ-14 data link pod to operate and may be delivered in guidance being provided by companion aircraft. Video images are continuously transmitted from the weapon while in flight. It is best used against exposed infantry, unarmored vehicles, and installations. The CBU-89 is a free-fall cluster bomb which contains a mix of anti-armor and anti-personnel mines. When the cluster munition is released, 94 Gator mines are scattered over a wide area. This weapon is particularly effective when used in conjunction with other types of ordnance. For example, these mines could be dropped on an airfield to hamper repair crews after a Durandal strike. The CBU-89 can be used anywhere the need for an instant barrier arises. Advancing armor could be immediately halted by dropping Gator mines in front of their line of march. It is best used against troop concentrations, armored vehicles, and airfields. The Agm-65 Maverick is a highly accurate air-to-ground missile which can use a variety of guidance options. The Agm-65A model uses a simple TV system which allows the operator to lock onto the target. The Agm-65D uses an imaging infrared which gives the weapon a night capability. Maverick missiles are fire-and-forget weapons once the weapon has locked onto a target. Later model Maverick missiles have an effective range approaching 13.7 nautical miles. The Maverick missiles are best used against armored vehicles, hardened bunkers, and ships. The Agm-84A Harpoon is an air-launched, medium-range, anti-ship missile with a maximum range approaching 65 nautical miles. It is designed as a sea skimmer, flying very low over water using inertial guidance. Once in terminal mode, the missile activates a phased-array J-band radar seeker to acquire its target. The missile is usually fired after the range and bearing of a target is known. However, the Harpoon may be launched using a technique known as bearing-only launch. In this case, the missile is simply launched along a particular bearing, with its radar seeker looking for any target within a 45-degree search arc. The warhead is more than enough to cripple or sink medium-sized warships with a single hit. The Harpoon is best used against naval vessels. The Agm-84E Standoff Land Attack Missile, or SLAM, is a cross-bred weapon system. It combines a Harpoon fuselage with the imaging infrared seeker commonly used on Agm-65D Mavericks. The SLAM has a maximum range of approximately 60 nautical miles, less than its predecessor. This reflects the weight of additional targeting equipment. Once the missile reaches its terminal phase, the IR seeker locks in a video image. At that point, the missile will proceed to the target without further guidance from the launching aircraft. The missile uses the Global Positioning System to provide mid-course corrections for its inertial guidance. The SLAM is best used against fixed installations and a wide range of soft targets. The Agm-88 High-Speed Anti-Radiation Missile, or HARM, is currently replacing the Shrike and Standard arm. It entered service in 1983 and was first used in combat during the 1986 strike on Libya. HARMs are used exclusively to suppress or destroy enemy radar installations. The Agm-88A can be programmed to attack pre-selected targets or launched on a set bearing to engage targets of opportunity. The HARM causes hostile radars to cease emitting radiation or risk a direct hit. The Agm-88A carries a 66-kilogram fragmentation warhead and has a range of over 12 nautical miles. The HARM is best used against radar emitters. The Durandal is a French-made anti-runway weapon containing 15 kilograms of high explosive. Durandal missions are often the most hazardous because they require pilots to fly straight and level over a runway. The bomb must be dropped from at least 75 meters to allow time for the tail-mounted parachute to deploy, slowing its descent. When the weapon is perpendicular to the ground, a solid fuel rocket ignites with sufficient force to drive the weapon through a concrete surface. The Durandal has a delayed fuse which detonates the weapon underneath the surface in order to maximize the cratering effect. The explosion often has an eerie mushroom cloud signature and is best used against paved surfaces and runways. Air-to-air weapons include the following. The Sidewinder is a widely used medium-range, heat-seeking IR missile. Early models suffered from an inability to engage targets near the ground. Subsequent modifications have eliminated this problem. The F-15 first used Sidewinders in 1977. Current models feature a reduced smoke propellant to make aerial detection difficult. Maximum engagement range is roughly 5 nautical miles but depends entirely on the shooter's aspect angle. The Agm-65 Sparrow is a radar-guided air-to-air missile with a range of 17 nautical miles. The firing aircraft must obtain a radar lock on the target prior to firing. Once a target is locked, the shooter must keep the target within his radar envelope or the missile will go ballistic. The missile features an onboard processor, which can be programmed to combat the effects of target ECM. The U.S. Air Force and Navy are expected to acquire an inventory of 17,000 Sparrows until the AMRAAM comes into full production. During the Gulf War, Sparrow kills outnumbered those made by Sidewinders by a ratio of 4 to 1. The AIM-120A Advanced Medium Range Air-to-Air Missile, or AMRAAM, began development in 1975. It is designed to replace the Sparrow on F-15s. The missile features a low smoke propellant and is expected to have a maximum head-on target aspect range of 28 nautical miles. The AMRAAM warhead weighs approximately 22 kilograms and contains an active radar proximity fuse. Production began in the late 1980s at around 180 missiles per year. The AIM-120A is a fire-and-forget missile. Once launched, it needs no further guidance from the firing aircraft. The missile has an active homing radar in its nose cone. The F-15E is equipped with a 6-barreled Gatling-type gun made by General Electric. The 20mm Vulcan has a sustained rate of fire approaching 6,000 rounds per minute. Normally, the F-15E carries just over 500 rounds of 20mm ammunition. The Vulcan is able to accelerate to its maximum rate of fire in less than half a second and features a linkless feed system which is powered externally. The Vulcan is essentially 1950s technology but has proven to be extremely reliable. The average life of a single barrel is approximately 20,000 rounds. With an effective range of only 3,300 feet, the gun is a weapon of last resort after the medium and short-range missiles have failed. The F-15 Strike Eagle also has sophisticated defense systems. The electronic countermeasures come in 2 basic types: those designed to fool radar-guided missiles and those used against heat seekers. The most common countermeasure is the use of chaff. Chaff is stored within the aircraft in CMDs, countermeasure dispensers, located directly underneath the main engine intakes. Chaff defends the F-15 against radar-guided missiles by releasing a cloud of metal strips cut to a particular wavelength. The strips serve to confuse the enemy radar by cluttering the image with many false returns. Once the missile locks onto the chaff, it will fly into the cloud and explode on contact. For defense against heat-seeking missiles, the F-15 is equipped with a number of heat-producing devices, commonly known as flares. Flares are used to decoy heat-seeking missiles away from your aircraft. A flare burns for only 5 to 10 seconds. During this time, the heat-seeking missile hopefully is lured away from the F-15. Once the flare burns out, however, the missile is free to reacquire a new target. The F-15 features a specially designed electronic countermeasure system known as the Tactical Electronic Warfare System, or TEWS. The TEWS system protects the F-15 from a variety of threats. As a part of the total package design, the TEWS does not constitute additional weight nor detract from the ordnance normally carried. TEWS consists of 2 main components: the AN/ALR-56 RWR and the AN/ALQ-135V radar jammer. These systems detect the presence of both ground-based and aerial radars. The primary job of the TEWS is to provide the pilot with prompt radar warnings, giving the pilot ample time to deal with the threat. The TEWS is a completely hands-off internal system. Even if the crew is preoccupied with other tasks, the TEWS guards against surprises. The AN/ALR-56 RWR detects the radar and gives audio signals when an enemy is attempting to gain a radar lock on the F-15. The AN/ALQ-135 is an internal jammer which functions automatically to defeat the hostile radar's acquisition. The pilot, who must first activate the jammer, is then free to maneuver or deploy chaff to further confuse his aircraft's radar signature. The F-15 can also be configured with mission-specific electronic countermeasure pods or dispensers to confuse enemy radar systems and protect against surface-to-air missiles. For example, the AN/ALE-45 is a computer-controlled dispenser system which operates automatically in response to threats detected by the radar warning receiver system. Today's F-15 Strike Eagle employs the AN/APG-70 radar, replacing the AN/APG-63 unit found on earlier F-15s. This new radar system has a longer operational range, with greater sensitivity than its predecessor. It operates over a wider bandwidth and is able to track targets despite electronic countermeasures. The radar screen scans a 120-degree arc in front of the aircraft's nose. The WISO then receives a high-resolution return image. The quality of these radar images approaches what one might expect from a standard photo. The images are then processed and stored in the aircraft's onboard computer system so that the radar does not have to operate continuously. This cuts down on the enemy's opportunity to detect the F-15's radar emissions. In addition to the APG-70 radar, F-15Es are usually fitted with a lantern, low altitude and targeting infrared for night, when performing ground strike missions. The lantern system is actually a pair of pods which are mounted on external hardpoints beneath each engine inlet. One of these pods is used for targeting, while the other is reserved for navigation. The AN/AAQ-13 navigation pod contains a wide-angle forward-looking infrared system, or FLIR. FLIR images are displayed on the pilot's heads-up display, or HUD, directly in front. Combined with the terrain-following radar also contained in the navigation pod allows the aircraft to operate at low altitude, even at night. The targeting pod contains another FLIR with both wide and narrow-angle field of vision. This FLIR is used to track targets and is equipped with a laser designator. Individual targets within the FLIR images may then be marked. Using information passed on by the targeting FLIR, fire-and-forget weapons may be launched, or smart bombs guided to their target by lasers. The Eagle's dominance as a fighter began in the early 1980s, but it wasn't until the Gulf War in 1991 that F-15s would be given an opportunity to display their awesome air-to-ground prowess in combat. Perfectly executed airstrikes over Iraq proved to the world that the F-15 Strike Eagle was the most advanced tactical strike fighter ever developed. The mission that began with the birth of the F-15 program in 1969 was fully realized. The United States was undoubtedly the leader in aerospace engineering and aircraft design. MicroProse's F-15 Strike Eagle 3 showcases the E-model F-15, the latest two-seat ground attack variant of this highly effective fighter. F-15-3 is the most realistic and comprehensive computer simulation game to date. Now you can take control of the multi-million-dollar Strike Eagle firsthand. Enjoy the ride.